Meanwhile, happening today, President Trump is expected to speak with Ukrainian President Zelenskyy after Russia's President Vladimir Putin invited Zelenskyy to, quote, meet him in Moscow. He said if Zelensky's ready for a meeting, let him come to Moscow. Really? Here to discuss this is Fox News contributor and former CIA station chief who served in Moscow, Dan Hoffman. Dan, should the president of Ukraine go to Moscow? Think Putin's serious?
No, this was Vladimir Putin again continuing to thumb his nose at the peace process. And look, all you have to do is look at the continued decision by Vladimir Putin to rain down hell on Ukraine with drones and missiles every night, killing innocent civilians and children. That's the message that Putin wanted to deliver. He's not serious about negotiations.
So what do you think the conversation should be about today when the president made it clear to everyone? I'm talking to Zelenskyy this morning. He watched that parade and all the antics over the last few days over in China. What do you think what's the tone of the talk today?
So, look, I think that the parade in China was all about that axis of dictatorships, Iran, North Korea, and Russia, trying to impose their authoritarian model on the rest of the world, coercive economics and commercial relationships, invading their neighbors and such. President Trump is the leader of the free world. I think it's time for him to take advantage of and the momentum of the meeting he had at the White House with our European partners. Be the leader of the free world, lead the democracies, energize Europe to continue to take the fight to Russia by supporting Ukraine. There's many things I think that Europe could do. There are things we could do with secondary sanctions, but I think the president may be working with Ukraine to press the Europeans to do more.
Specifically, tell me what you had in mind.
Well, I think the Germans need to give Ukraine the Taurus long-range missiles. They've been talking about it for months. I think that would be incredibly helpful for Ukraine. Denmark could look at closing the Danish Straits to Russia's shadow fleet. If we want to further damage Russia's economy, and frankly, Ukraine has done a lot of that by targeting Russia's oil infrastructure, let's make it hard for their shadow fleet to operate and make it hard for them to evade the sanctions. And then we can look at the central bank assets, $300 billion worth of Russian money held frozen right now. We're using the interest on that money, but maybe we should look at the principal.
$300 billion, give it right to Ukraine. It's Russian money, and giving it right to them to let them fight on another day. It's the only thing that's going to get their attention. This is what Russia says they want. Ukraine cedes control of Donetsk and Luhansk. Donetsk is a non-starter. Freeze point lines in Kherson, Zaporizhzhia. That would include the nuclear power plant. The U.S. would recognize Russia's sovereignty over captured land. We would never do that. What Russia concedes is a willingness to negotiate over small areas of Sumy and Kharkiv, open to discussing security guarantees for Ukraine. They seem to have walked back the key advance from Alaska, and that was international troops. It's a tripwire in Ukraine. So there's a few things there. Russia feels good about continuing to fight.
Well, Vladimir Putin's strategic objective has never wavered. He wants to overthrow the democratically elected government of Ukraine. If he makes a deal right now, it's ephemeral. It's going to last only so long as Vladimir Putin chooses to allow it to last before he launches another invasion against Ukraine. There's been an ongoing war since Russia illegally annexed Crimea back in 2014. So the way to deal with Russia is to stop them and deter future attacks. And that's what I think we need to be working with Europe on.
I love the president's tone. They did it for me to watch. I watched. I know those guys. I'll have an answer. And I think that that's what he's saying. I gave them some rope. I gave them some credibility. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. And now there's more doubt than benefit. And I think that in the region, you get Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, the Philippines, some additional arms, missile defense. You make sure Taiwan's a porcupine. That's the message that China doesn't want to see.
It is. And I also think that Russia's senior leaders, intelligence officers, military officials, they know that President Trump gave Vladimir Putin every opportunity to stop this war, which has resulted in 1 million Russian casualties and wrecked their economy. And they're seeing that this war is a loser, and that's going to pressure Putin. And I think that's another element of this strategy, which is beneficial.
Well, Dan Hoffman, thanks so much. It's going to be an interesting phone call.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.